Hello everyone. My name is Hyung and I'm a lecturer and a researcher at the Shipping Management Department of the Korea Maritime and Ocean University. And today I'm presenting about administrative organization and operation system of Korean ports. Let me introduce myself before I start the presentation. I had studied international transport for undergraduate course, logistics and supply chain management for master's, and maritime logistics for PhD. Since the 1970s, the maritime industry has been a key economic driver that lead all industries in Korea. Excellent technology is Korea's leading export that is spreading across the world through cooperative relationships between maritime industries such as shipbuilding, port, and maritime transport. Currently, Korea is the world's leading shipbuilding nation and holds fifth position globally in controlled fleet. Busan's port as the hub of the domestic and Northeast Asian regional maritime industry is the world's sixth largest container port. Let's start presentation. This presentation consists of four main parts. Firstly, I will introduce the port and port development master plan in Korea. It moves to the next part, port administrative organization in Korea. Third part of the presentation is port operation systems in Korea. And lastly, I will briefly introduce future trend of ports and port development. The first part of the presentation is ports in Korea. Korea is located in Far East Asia. More specifically, it's located between China and Japan. As a peninsula, Korea is surrounded by the sea on three sides of the country. For many years, the Korean people have been living closely with the sea. And as a result, they have become an advanced maritime nation today. As of September year 2020, there are a total of 60 ports in Korea. And according to the size and the roles of the ports, it can be divided into 31 trade ports and 29 coastal ports. Trade ports can be categorized as international, national, and regional trade ports. An international trade port is closely related to the national economy and public interest, and from which ocean-going ships mainly enter and depart. International port can be designated as an national trade port or a regional trade port, taking into consideration the volume of cargoes exported and imported. Development plan and balanced regional development in order to manage and operate international trade ports systematically and efficiently. National trade port is critically related to the national interest in terms of handling cargoes from the hinterland of a metropolitan area or supporting major key industry. As a hub for domestic and overseas inland and maritime transportation networks. Regional trade port is mainly for handling cargoes necessary for regional industries as a hub for regional, inland and maritime transportation networks. A coastal port is a port where ships mainly operate between the country's inner ports. There are three main directions of Korean port development. Firstly, the goal of port development in Korea was to enable smooth transportation of the export and import cargoes. The biggest goals for Korea after liberation in 1945 was to secure a self-supporting economy and to overcome resource shortages by securing the ports. During the industrialized period between 1970s to 1980s, ports were able to secure facilities to support the export and import of cargo for the economic development of Korea. Second direction is the expansion of port construction to handle transshipment cargo. With the Kobe port disabled after Hanshin earthquake in 1995, transshipment volume to China was transferred to Korea. Between 1991 and 2000, the transshipment traffic of Korea recorded a surprising increase rate of approximately 37.4% per annum. And in order to handle the freight, the Korean government built a two-port system of Busan and Gwangyang, which I'll introduce shortly. Lastly, we pursued construction of the ports for the transshipment of high-valued cargo. After year 2005, with the construction of the Chinese port by Chinese government, the simple transshipment cargo flown into Korea had dramatically reduced, raising the need for high-valued Korean port. The Korean government declared free economic zones centered on Busan, Gwangyang, and Incheon ports, and focused not only on simple transshipment but also on the construction of the port capable of value-added logistics. Busan port is the nation's the biggest container port, which ranks sixth biggest in the world in terms of cargo throughput in last year. Busan port consists of North Port, which is the old port, and the new port, which is the newly opened in year 2006. Currently, the total throughput of Busan port is divided into 20% from the North Port and 80% from the new port. The slide showed 5 container terminals at Busan North Port, which is Uam, Ganman, New Ganman, Jaseongdae, and Korea's Express Terminal, which are in clockwise order. Uam Terminal is the smallest container terminal in Busan Port and is not working anymore at the moment. Ganman Terminal has 4 buses. This terminal was the busiest terminal in Busan Port, but now the throughput is decreasing due to the mainliners from different alliances are moved to the Busan's new port. New Ganman Terminal was developed to support insufficient handling capacity of Ganman Terminal and currently has 3 buses. Jaseongdae Terminal has 6 buses, included 2 small buses and operated by Hutchison Port Holdings. This terminal will be closed down by 2023 to be developed as a waterfront in the National Port Master Plan. I will explain the detailed Korean National Master Plan in the next section. The Korea Express Terminal has 5 buses. This terminal is the biggest container terminal in the Busan Old Port, which has a plan to expand its berth length to accommodate ultra-large container carrier. Busan New Port was opened in 2006 and shares approximately 80% of total throughput of entire Busan Port. Busan Port is still under construction and is scheduled to be completed by year 2030. Gwangyang Port has 16 berths and total handling capacity is around 6 million TEUs per year. For the first time, the container throughput of Gwangyang Port exceeded 2 million TEUs in 2010. The ratios in the total container traffic of Korea was 10.9% in 2010. The market share of Gwangyang has increased steadily. There is another main container port in Korea except for Busan, and Gwangyang Port. Incheon Port is located near Seoul metropolitan and very close with China. So the main activity of this port is for trading with China and for supporting Seoul metropolitan economy. This is Ulsan Port that specialized in oil and cars. The total volume of the port is very high because of the handled products, while container traffic is very low due to the geographically close proximity to Busan, and the city is also relatively small compared to Seoul or Busan. Among these ports, I will explain in details about the port of Busan and Ulsan with a short video clip, because Busan is the nation's main container port, and Ulsan is known as the oil hub in the Northeast Asia.